Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is TB Sky, and since a new piece of animation has come out that I'm quite excited about and quite happy with, I thought I would do what I usually do and spend about half an hour talking about some, 30-second to 2-minute piece of animation and overanalyzing it extremely and getting way too excited about very small things. Kind of like Junkrat in this entire short piece of animation. Now, I should say up front, I know a lot more about 2D animation than I know about 3D animation. I don't know quite as much about the techniques and the limitations of programs and the stuff that goes into that, so I can't really speak so much to that. But what I can speak to is the acting and the way that the characters come through so beautifully in everything that happens in this animated short. I'm gonna let some of it play through just now, because the thing I want you to pay attention to right now is look at how much you can understand of what's going on right now without the sound. You don't know what anyone is saying, you just know that this guy is in charge of the plot, essentially. Like, he's the driver of everything that's going on, because he's the one doing most of the motion, he's the one trying to explain stuff to the big guy. The little guy is constantly making motions and saying, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Then we flash into his brain, and he's the one kind of explaining everything to the big guy, and the big guy doesn't move, he doesn't really talk, he just kind of stares and looks on and is kind of passive. So even without a word that we can understand of what's going on, nothing needs to be communicated with the dialogue, because we completely understand when this happens. Oh wait, do you have a problem with it? He's trying to figure it out. Oh, right, of course. I forgot something. You're right. Let's try this one again. Like, everything comes through in the movement and the motion, and Blizzard are spectacularly good at this kind of thing. And it's, everyone already knows that the Overwatch animated shorts are great, right? That's not exactly a new take, but I don't think a lot of people understand just how rare it really is to have animation, especially for a video game that is this complete, that is this dense with visual storytelling, that is this well done for silent storytelling. Like, this is one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time is WALL-E, because it is so silent. Like, WALL-E doesn't speak anything except like his words and his name rather, and like the occasional scream. But everything comes through in the motion, and it's the same thing with the Overwatch animated shorts. It's the same thing with the Bastion short, which was so brilliant, is because everything comes through from the acting of the characters and from the staging and just the way everything is told visually. And it's so... I adore this kind of animation so much. So let's pick out a few good moments of movement and go through them together, and we can talk about a few of the ways that they achieve this wonderful expression of personality. And it starts from the very first shot we get of our two protagonists, right? They're getting thrown out of Junkertown, and it sucks for them. And they fall on their face. Now, on the face of it, that's not really anything to write home about, right? They just get thrown out and land. But already here, the Blizzard animators are establishing character and personality, because look at the ways they fall. Let's start by looking at Junkrat. Look how he falls, and then his whole body kind of curls up, and his legs swing up over his head, and he kind of becomes almost curled into a ball as he falls on the ground. Everything about him swings up, and then when he finally comes to a rest and starts going back down again, look how it's his peg leg that goes first, and then his other leg follows and falls on the ground. So it's kind of like he's almost unfolding, like he's a slinky. And then by contrast, look at what Roadhog does, which is barely anything. He falls, he bounces just a little bit, and then his legs are down. And here, Roadhog has pretty much reached his final position. Like, he's still gonna jiggle a little bit, but this is his final pose. His final position as he's lying on the ground. Junkrat isn't done yet. He still has that whole swing of the legs going down, so they move with very different timings. Like, there's different timings for when they start their motions, how they complete them, and how they get to their end states. And Junkrat always in this animation short has more motions than Roadhog. Always. In every single shot that they're both in, Junkrat has more motions than Roadhog. Now, that's very basic stuff in terms of, like, Roadhog needs to be the big stoic guy. Junkrat needs to be the small excitable guy. There's nothing too exceptional about that, but that's the basics of animation at work, of how you express a character's personality, because this is not a motion that they're choosing, right? This is not them emoting or expressing something. They're being thrown and acted on by physics, in this case gravity and friction. But even when they're just being acted on by the forces of the world around them, they react very differently and very distinctly from one another. And like, so it's not that they're acting here. It's not that the character animator is giving them expression and making them do motions and stuff. No. Even when physics is acting on the characters, it acts on them in different ways, which helps further, like, the personality of their motion and their movement. And by the way, this, like, the whole Junkertown thing just kind of seems like Blizzard stealing Borderlands from Gearbox, which, I mean, I would applaud that, but that's a topic for another time. And speaking of Junkrat always having more motion, what's about to happen in this shot is that the two characters roll over and sit up and kind of take stock of where they are in the world. Look how Junkrat sits up. He flips his leg over, he kind of swings his body up, his arm moves to the left, his head kind of almost drags behind his torso, and then finally he kind of comes to a rest as he kind of sits up. Ooh. And then he's getting into talking about what's going on, what's happening, how he's feeling. Looks ahead, kind of defiantly stares at Junkertown. Now there's introspection. He's talking about, what the heck happened? And then he's turning to his partner and compatriot and asking him a question, right? So Junkrat, in the space of this shot, goes through sitting up, taking stock of the situation, being defiant against the people who threw him out, having introspection about, hey, what the heck happened? And then turning inquisitively to the person next to him. He's managed to do all of this in, like, oh, was that 4 seconds? Yeah, about 4 seconds. By contrast, how much does Roadhog get done in terms of animation in the same time frame? Well, he rolls over, still rolling over, still rolling over. Finally, he rolls over. He stays down for a little bit because he's not really in any hurry. And then he raises his leg to give him more counterweight. And then he slowly, very, very slowly manages to sit up. And in the space of the time it takes him to get here, Junkrat has gone through like 4 different emotional states and delivered some dialogue and delivered some acting and delivered some motion and delivered some movement. So it's so complete. Like, there isn't a shot where they forget who's supposed to be moving in what way, ever. And it's animation basics, but it's animation basics that are executed extremely, extremely well, and I'm so pleased with it. Also, this is a clever shot for one thing, because we're seeing things literally from Roadhog's perspective, right? Which is just from a narrative perspective is kind of nice, because we are in the narrative of the short, right? Junkrat is the one doing all the talking. Junkrat is the one setting up the plan, setting up what happened. They got thrown out. What did we do to get thrown out? Oh, well, maybe we stole some things. Maybe we got into a brawl. Maybe we blew some stuff up. Everything in the action comes from Junkrat. He's the one who sets the plan in motion. He's the one who comes up with the plan. He's the one who explains the plan. Everything happens because of him. Roadhog barely does anything. So he's our audience POV character, in an extremely literal sense, because right now we get to see what Junkrat looks like from Roadhog's perspective. It's just, for me, that's just a nice little detail. Also, here's where we really get into the nuts and bolts of how Junkrat moves, right? Here, what he's doing here, like the thing that he needs to do for the narrative of the short, is to pop into vision on the left side, pop into vision on the right side, pop into vision on the left side. Let's take a look at how he does that. Right? Look how much movement he uses to do that very simple thing. He goes from left to right, back to left. So here he bounces up, and he literally bounces. Like, he comes into frame like this, and he reaches the top, and then he kind of bounces back down, and then he bounces even when he's back down again, he bounces. And you can see, especially, look at the way his forehead and the top of his head is kind of moving at a different pace from his lower body, so it's kind of being pushed around and dragged around by the rest of his motion, and that's part of what delivers those fantastic expressions on his face. And also notice something about the timing of Junkrat's motion. Junkrat's motion is very much defined by suddenness, stillness, suddenness, stillness, suddenness, stillness. So he makes a sudden movement, then he's still for a moment, then he makes a sudden movement, then he's still for a moment. And this comes through everywhere in his animation, because you can see he pops into view on the left with a very sudden motion. Right, all this jazz. This sudden motion pops into view, and then there's stillness for a bit as he delivers a couple of words of dialogue. And then, whoop, suddenness. Like, there's no... He doesn't get ready to move. He doesn't really do it. It's just instantly you can see the animation smear brings, and he kind of... Almost like he's being dragged from off-screen by something that's kind of pulling him to the other side. And I love the animation smears that they use in Overwatch. I don't know how the hell you do that with a 3D model. Like, animation smearing a 3D model is hard. I know a person who has done, like, rigging work and 3D animation work. You have to have a well-constructed rig in order to do animation smears, in order to stretch and deform a character like that comfortably. If something goes wrong with the rig, you literally can't do these things. It's not like 2D animation where you can just extend a line. You have to have, like, model splines and shit. Like, again, I don't really know that much about 3D animation, but I know that there's a lot of complicated shit that goes into just creating a character model that can move in the way that they're supposed to be moving in these shorts. And you can see he kind of gets stretched out almost like he's jello. And then he pops into the other eye. And you can see, again, it's not just that he appears. He doesn't just appear from the side or from the bottom. He explodes. Literally explodes. His motion is explosive. He compresses and then boom, flings out his arms like kaboom, here I am motion. So explosions are very much part of how he moves, like that stillness of the bomb just sitting there, and then it explodes and goes off. Everything about Junkrat is informed by that love of explosions, which is such a nice detail. And you can see also the squash and stretch, how his chest compresses and moves in order to deliver the motion. Look at his face. I love the expressions so much. Every face Junkrat makes in this thing is a fucking meme, I swear. And then there's this stillness again, like where he's in motion, but he's kind of staying still in the frame for a bit. And then there's a little bit of minor explosion. And then stillness. And then, zoom, again, animation smears. As he explodes again onto the other side. The faces are so good. And again, it's even in the minor movements of Junkrat. There's this stillness here where he's kind of up close, and then an explosive movement backwards, very sudden, and a moment of stillness, and then a boom as he pops his eye all the way up to Roadhog's face. And it's just fantastic. And again, here, notice how much his model just deforms. Like how much he almost becomes a vat of jello moving. As again, his motion isn't just that he moves, it's that almost that his lower body moves and almost pulls the rest of him along with it. Like it's a stick to which a long band of rubber is attached, and it's kind of getting stretched and pulled as Junkrat moves. And again, contrast that with Roadhog, who's not... It's not like Roadhog is just a still image. It's not like he's not moving at all, but his motion is very subtle. It's like he's almost kind of like he's swaying with the wind. He doesn't do much at all, but he is in motion. He is breathing, even if you look at his stomach. And again, the explosiveness of Junkrat's motion. He has this moment of stillness. And then I need to say something to Roadhog. Kapow! And look at the animation smear on his face with the lips. Ultimate duck face. And stillness a bit as he delivers some dialogue. And boom! And then like everything about him is defined by these motions. Now, we're 30 seconds in. I want to make this a little bit shorter than my other animation breakdowns. So we're gonna let... oh, Junkrat faces. You're gonna be... so many memes. But notice the timing is present again here in this. Stillness, quickness, like this, he doesn't have a smooth motion at all. There's never a smooth motion with Junkrat. It's always little explosions of motion. And I love this frame in particular because of a tiny detail. This is small potatoes, but it's the kind of thing I love, right? So the motion Junkrat is doing here is suddenly he has an idea. So this is where he completes that motion, right? Here he gets the idea and goes, and here the motion is complete. Like, his face is barely at all going to move. But look at the other stuff on his body. The grenades, the hair. Look how they're jiggling around and kind of wiggling because they're reacting to the quickness of his motion. Which gives him that fantastic, like, which really sells the idea of a sudden motion that is stopped in its tracks because everything else is still moving from inertia. And that stuff, again, a lot of video games, when you see a character move, the body moves, sure, but their clothes, their accessories, the stuff that's hanging on them, that shit doesn't move. Like, it doesn't jiggle, it doesn't jangle, it doesn't have any unnecessary motion because that's extra work to put in that you don't necessarily have the time or the budget or care to do. But the Blizzard animators... they're so completionist in their approach to how Junkrat is supposed to be, how he's supposed to move. And again, talking about explosions, boom, and then boom. And also all the twitching he does. Take a look at his face when we zoom in here in just a moment. Take a look at how much his face is kind of, his head is kind of trembling and twitching from side to side. All that twitching and trembling that's going on. And that's present in so many of his frames, like that trembling as though he's tensing up a muscle so hard that he can barely think. I also love, this is something other people have talked about, but how easy it is to recognize Overwatch characters just by their outlines. Like, you don't need the colors, you don't really need to even be able to see them clearly, you just need the outline and you instantly know who it is. That's hard to do for a character designer to figure out how to get that shit to work. So... kudos on Blizzard for that. And again, talking about the suddenness of Junkrat's motion, he's got the peg leg, right? That makes him move a little bit like a pirate because, you know, it's a peg leg. Of course, you're not moving quite correctly. But look at again how the motion of his movement informs. Again, that stillness when he moves on his normal leg, and then he has like that uneven motion that informs everything about him. And I also love this little motion because it's barely noticeable if you're not kind of a nerd like me who's always looking for it. But he's kind of moving smoothly along the side of the thing. Now we need him to turn around so that we can see his face and he can look out at the audience. So how does Junkrat turn around? Like that. Who turns around like that, right? No one does, but Junkrat does. You can see his lower body kind of shoots forward, and his orange right arm kind of starts defining the motion, swings all the way around, and then he's down. And that exaggeration, like that constant need to do more than what is necessary, it's such a brilliant bit of character work. And again, here, lots of the trembling going on. Look at how much he's twitching and trembling when he's laughing about the people who betrayed me, or whatever it is he says. And again here, as he's laughing, twitching and trembling all the time, twitching and trembling. And also his jaw is a huge part of how this character moves and emotes. Let's see if we can get a good look at it. Notice how when he's talking, right? How much his jaw is doing. Here, it's swinging, it's coming over from the left. It's almost following like it's on a string. Coming over from the left, then it moves over to the right, and then it's back out to a neutral position, and then he moves it out to the right, and then you can see it's kind of pinpointing the motion of his head as he goes down. Again, the jaw is constantly offset from where it's actually supposed to be in relation to its head. You can't really talk if you do that, right? If you move your jaw all the way to the right or to the left, you end up sounding like this because it messes with your mouth. But Junkrat is constantly like swinging his jaw from side to side in all of his motions, which again helps give him that cartoony, exaggerated, extremely agitated look. And if you look at the other Overwatch shorts, this is not something Tracer really does. This is not something Widowmaker does. It's not something that happens to the other characters. And again, explosive motion, stillness, suddenness, stillness, suddenness, stillness, suddenness. And even in these still images, right? This is Junkrat explaining the plan. These images are still. There's no animation going on, but the animators don't let that chance pass you by. Because when they change into costumes, Junkrat has his pose, Roadhog has his pose. Roadhog still has the same pose, he doesn't give a shit, he hasn't moved. But Junkrat, no, I'm gonna take a different pose, ta-da! And it's also in the pieces here where they're pushing, right? Again, Roadhog, he's not doing anything exceptional. He's not exaggerating anything. I need to push this thing, so I'm pushing it. Just gently with my hands by my waist, just pushing it forward. Whereas Junkrat, he's not just pushing it, he's pushing it. He's putting all of his weight into everything he's doing all the time, constantly. Whereas Roadhog is just doing the minimum amount of stuff necessary, while Junkrat always does like 5 times more than what is necessary. And it's again in this shot. Look at how little. Let's start by taking a look at Roadhog. See how he pops into frame. He just kind of appears. Here's my arm. I'm about to pull my mask off. There's my mask. I have pulled it off. That's all he did in the space of that time. How much did Junkrat do? He jumps up, he animation smears, he curls down, and now you can see he's wiggling, he's jiggling, everything about him. I need to pull this mask off, and zoom, this huge motion where he kind of almost tears the mask apart and reveals himself. All of this excess, all of this too much of everything going on. And notice again the eye twitch. You can see it on the left side of his face here, his right eye. Here he has a moment of stillness as he reacts to this thing being put out. And still his eyes are twitching, and and a lot of him is moving. And here when he's trying to figure out what Roadhog wants, his eyes, the lower bit of his eyelids are constantly moving. And it is just very good. You can, I think I've gone over this like 14 times already, so I think this is where we'll cut the video off. But just notice when you look at this animation, how much they take care to show the personality of the character in every single motion. There is not a shot, there's not a frame, there's not a moment in this piece of animation where the characters are on screen where they're not showing you exactly who they are, with their motion, with their expressions, with their movement, with their timing, with the weight that they throw around and how they throw it around. And it's incredibly well realized. It's incredibly well done. Blizzard are masters at this kind of thing, and I'm so happy that they're doing these animated shorts. I hope they never stop. Anyway, my name has been TBSky. I've been talking for 23 minutes about 3 minutes of animation, as is my habit. And oh no, actually, I was about to end the video, but then I remembered this bit. Because this is pure Tex Avery. This is pure Roadrunner. Junkrat jumps, and the mask stays spinning in the air. And you can see it has this moment of, oh, suddenly gravity decides to work, and it gets smeared. Almost stretched out as Junkrat does his hero pose landing. And again with the hand twitching. Like, it's so good. It's so good. I could talk about this shit for hours. I probably shouldn't, but I could. Anyway, my name has been TBSky. I'm going to end this video before I find any more reason to keep going at it. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, leave a comment or like or subscribe down below somewhere, and I suppose I shall see you, whenever the hell the next time is that some piece of animation comes out that excites me.